Christophe Laporte, the Criterium du Dauphine's yellow jersey, wins again in what's been a crazy Stage 3 on site here in Le Courteau. And the day, well, it might have been boring to some because if you tuned in early on, nothing was really happening. We had an escape go free earlier on. Mathieu Bourgadeau, he was caught with 118 kilometers, and then nothing seemed to happen. The riders went on and on. The only action at one point was this crash at 50 kilometers to go involving yesterday's stage winner Julian Alaphilippe, an American from Team Movistar, Matteo Jorgensen. Both seemed to be okay. Both got on their bikes and continued in the race. Afterwards, I got a sight of Matteo Jorgensen at the finish line. He was banged up, it looked like on his hip and also on his back. You saw that radio transponder when he was riding back to the group. It was just showing through his jersey rip, but Matteo continues on in this race, as does Julian Alaphilippe, who suffered mechanical with about 7 kilometers to go in this race and had to fight to get back on. But before we get to that point, there was a crash with around 25 kilometers to go. Then we got into the final. We saw the GC teams really leading out, doing all the work today to get to that final 3K to go before their GC riders were safe and secure. Team Ineos working for Egan Bernal, Jumbo-Visma working for their leader Jonas Vingegaard, but also for the yellow jersey wearer and winner of Stage 1, Christophe Laporte. And other teams were up there too. Dylan Groenewegen's team, Jayco Lula, were there because they were working for the sprint. And Bora Hansgrohe, well, they came in later as they planned on doing for the sprint to work for Sam Bennett. Well, the sprint was a wild and crazy one. We were coming into the final. Jonas Vingegaard, again, the small little Danish rider, was working for his big Frenchman into the sprint to protect him, to give him another shot and to give him a shot to keep that yellow jersey lead. Well, wow, what a sprint final we had. Bora Hansgrohe, as promised, came to the front, hammering and hammering hard. It was Ryan Mullen. Then it was Danny Van Poppel doing the lead out for Sam Bennett. Crucially, Laporte was on the wheel of Groenewegen, who was watching the wheels going up to the sprint. As the line became closer and closer, we had more crashes before we could even get to that point. Around about 1,500 meters to go, we had a crash. Then another one with around 700 meters to go that involved Lawson Craddock, the U.S. rider from Jayco Lula, Dylan Groenewegen's team. But let's get back up to that sprint. The sprint was warming up. So right there on the wheel of Groenewegen, we had Laporte. Sam Bennett had a great lead out. He hit out there on the left-hand side and was charging, but he was slowing and drifting to the right, and Groenewegen too was also going with him, seemingly had nowhere to go, and Laporte, well, taking advantage of those guys who are more of pure sprinters, and Laporte more of a tough man sprint guy who does well in small little uphill kickers like we saw in Stage 1. Well, Laporte profited from those two guys drifting so much, and Laporte raised his hands in victory and securing more bonus seconds. And of course, the second stage win in the Criterium du Dauphine. Second went to Sam Bennett. Third went to Dylan Groenewegen. Both of those guys were completely upset with the loss today because today was the pure sprinter stage of the Criterium du Dauphine 2023, with tomorrow the TT and more mountains up on the horizon. Fourth place, crucially, went with Matteo Trentin. Now stick with me. The UAE rider, as you'll look down the results, is now second in the sprint because guess what happened? The UCI jury officials, well, they regulated both Sam Bennett and Dylan Groenewegen, relegated him to the back of the pack, DQ'd him from the sprint. So that was a little bit of chaos there in that final. And we saw Christophe Laporte really just trying to keep these bonus sprint seconds. We saw earlier on in the intermediate sprint, and there in the final too. So a crazy day of racing. Watch out for Matteo Jorgensen. He should be good in tomorrow's time trial, but of course he got banged up and bruised in today's crash. So fingers crossed for our American friend that he does well in tomorrow's TT. Jumbo-Visma, of course, have the outright favorite with Jonas Vingegaard as we look for the overall of this race, which finishes Sunday. But today, a day of celebration again for Jumbo-Visma, Christophe Laporte, and a day of controversy as riders get DQ'd out of the sprint in this race.